Hey, it's Mazzy here. Welcome back. I wasn't going to do another video before my departure to London, but I was so inspired by my friend Michael's response video, instant response video on CDs versus vinyl. Now, I'm not going to do what Michael did, but this is an ongoing debate that's happened. And why do you have to hate one over the other? Now, there's reasons that I prefer vinyl over compact disc, but I want to talk about this video because Michael made this video, and it is a response to another video. Let me just show you one little clip of this. Michael's video, I'll put a link below to his video and the original video that he's responding to. And here we go.
Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Well, I can't believe we're having this discussion, but it came up so many times in the comments that I feel I have to address it. And that is CDs versus vinyl.
Oi, vey. Okay, a lanceman. Now, what's great about this is Michael goes step by step through everything that Mr. Hurwitz says. Now, I'm not familiar with him. He's apparently an amazing musicologist of classical music and is a contributor, a writer, and he knows a lot about the music. And he really, in this his dissertation here, his video, he talks about how CDs are better for a lot of reasons because of the expense and the clicks and pops, the usual chazarai that we attribute to vinyl. And I totally understand what he's talking about. And Michael actually responds segment by segment to some of his arguments and his positions. And some are very valid. And, you know, we could go back and forth on this, and a lot of people of my generation went through that whole thing of, vinyl was the only thing around. And then, of course, 8-tracks and cassettes and CDs, and then back to vinyl. Now, a lot of people, including myself, sold a third of our collection. Me in 1995, I had 6,000 albums then, sold 2,000, had 4,000. Luckily, I didn't sell everything, but I've already kind of gotten those back over the years. And I still have a massive CD collection. So I want to go through this and talk about it. I'm not going to really go, now, I'm going to go back and forth like this, if this works out, okay? Oh, that's too high. So I'm going to cut back and forth between my massive CD collection and my massive record collection. I'm not anti-compact disc or anti-vinyl. Now, that Mr. Hurwitz, the thing is, my guess is him and I are the same generation. We're probably the same age. And he's a little bit about, the clicks and the pops and all that stuff, and all the chazara you get on the vinyl, and you have to have it perfect. And why if they didn't make it good to begin with, why is it better now? New and improved. And he goes on this rant about new and improved. Why didn't they make it right the first time? That's like saying, okay, Henry Ford made the Model T. Why is a 2024 Audi better than a Model T? Well, of course, technology and improvements and a lot of things. And Michael does respond about that in terms of how records were made back in the 50s and 60s, and for the gear that people had and the good and bad things. Now, I love my CD collection. I play my CD collection a lot when I'm in my office. To me, and this is just me. Now, this is the nice thing about this. What Mr. Hurwitz talks about is totally valid and totally right for him. And the expense of vinyl is a little crazy now, especially classical. Now, I will say that Michael and Hurwitz's discussion is mainly coming from a classical point of view, classical records. And I understand how, classical people that I knew back in the beginning of the CD heyday were all in on it because of the quietness. There's a lot of quiet passages, there are in rock and roll and folk and things like that. But classical listeners are more discerning about getting that perfect sound. Now, we could get into dynamics and everything, and both Michael and Mr. Hurwitz are right about that, you could have a CD that's much better than a vinyl record, and you can have a vinyl record that is far superior to a compact disc in terms of sound wise. Now, on the right gear and the right room, the right setup, and everything. And it. Do I want to say it's subjective? It depends on you, what's right for you. I talk about, like Mr. Hurwitz, about it's the music stupid. It's the music first. It should be about the music, whether the format is a compact disc or so back in the record room here, vinyl is my preference. When I want to sit down and listen and pay attention, vinyl is the preference for me because I am, in a way, forced to pay attention, to turn it over after every 15, 20 minutes or so. And it makes me sit down and pay attention for the most part. I mean, obviously there are exceptions. But when I A-B a CD to a vinyl edition, 9 out of 10 times, I find the vinyl edition more rewarding, more fulfilling, more organic, it envelops me more in the sound. I like, the cliche that both Hurwitz and Michael kind of went back and forth about the warmth of it. And, a lot of vinyl people like to use the cliche of the warmth on a record. And there's some truth to that. There is something that I don't think anyone, whether it's a Michael or a Hurwitz or a Fremer or anyone else, can really explain about what vinyl adds to it. When something is cut specifically for vinyl, mostly from an analog recording, but even a good digital recording, when it's cut beautifully to analog to make a record, there is something that's kind of indescribable that makes it just sound more organic. And to me, you feel that music much more. Yes, there were a lot of bad mastered CDs over the year. We heard of the loudness wars. Same thing with records. Records in the last decade have been hit and miss, and depending on how they were mastered. There are pluses with the CD era. The CD era really ushered in the concept of box sets and full catalogs on things. I mean, just look at this for an example, okay? This is Johnny Cash, the complete Columbia albums. You would never want, what is this, 180 or 80 to 100 records that Johnny Cash made for Columbia Records. You would probably never want all 100 of those records. Same with the Bob Dylan box there. It's the same type of thing. I mean, we could go with, the Metal Spine series here, Miles Davis. There's a series of all the outtakes, the Bitches Brew, all the takes of Bitches Brew, the In a Silent Way, the Gil Evans year, the second quintet, things like that. That's something that works better in the compact disc forums. Now, in terms of classical records, I'm not going to even get into that because I'm a novice. I can't talk of what the two of them talk about in terms of classical music. I have maybe 100 classical CDs. I have maybe 75 classical records that Michael went through a little bit in my collection. We collaborated on a video. But I just loved seeing Michael's response point by point. Again, some items, some of the conversation he agreed with, and some he just had a whole different opinion. And it's not that one is maybe right or one is wrong or vice versa. It's that we have different takes what's right for us. Of course, again, Mr. Hurwitz and my guess is closer to the same age, where Michael is several generations below us. He's coming from a different point of view. And, the idea that Mr. Hurwitz says about this whole, he didn't use the word hipster really, but this recent resurgent in vinyl. As Michael rightly said, this has been going on for about a dozen years now. This is nothing new. There are people that stuck with it when vinyl was cheap and they were buying all those records that people like me and he gave away for virtually nothing, for $1 a record if we were lucky back then in the 90s. But there is something that really adds to it. So I don't know what else to say, really. Let's see here what else Mr. Hurwitz has to say. Dave Hurwitz. But I don't know him. I'm not on a first name basis with him.
Oh my goodness. I mean, do we really need to talk about it? Well, I guess we do, because there is a thing about vinyl coming back these days.
Okay.
These days. Well, I guess in classical, vinyl is starting to come back in classical now. But man, I remember people talking about the vinyl resurgence 12 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm gonna put links below to watch these two videos because it's an interesting conversation and it's an interesting debate, and it's not. It doesn't have to be an aggressive debate and something that someone is right or something is wrong. As far as I'm concerned with my whole It's the Music Stupid, it is about the music and whatever format, whether you like it on record, like it on CD, like to stream, whatever works for you is really the best thing. So this whole, verses. Now, granted, they take a lot of space. I think Dave Hurwitz talks about, I don't have the room for records, and they took a lot of space. But, I remember years ago, there was an article either in the New Yorker or the New York Times early on the CD era, and I've never been able to find that article. If anyone can find it and link it to me. And it was great. It was probably done in the late 80s or around 1990. And it talked about, CDs actually, in this form with the jewel cases, take up as much room as records. Now, there's some truth to that, and some kind of it's a sketchy way. It's kind of like how Donald Trump talks about the economy. It's not, he doesn't talk about it in a real way. But you take a CD like this, okay, right, and look at that. That's about 2 to 3 times as thick as a vinyl record, and they never should have. First of all, they shouldn't have put these in the long boxes to begin with. That was a anti-theft thing, and because they were made long boxes for retail to fit in record bins at the time, so they wouldn't have to change all the bins out. But I think this is the biggest waste of time, these kind of jewel boxes. What they should have done, this is my opinion, and I know I'll get flack because people don't think the same as I do here. I think what they should have done is what the Japanese do. This is all you need. Little vinyl replicas. Look at how thin that is. This is how CDs should have been issued. Every CD should have been like this. Then they would have taken up a lot less space than what we have now with all these jewel cases. Look at that. Yes, you need a lot of room. And of course, when I come back in here, look at this. That's a lot of records. Luckily, I have the room, and maybe I'm fortunate in that respect. But I'm an old man like Dave Hurwitz. Dave Hurwitz, you're probably not watching this because I don't do what you do, and I'm not a classical maven. But in terms of reaction to reaction, when I pull out a record, and yeah, it is the music, but the artwork and cover is important to me, and I know you even agree. This little tiny type is ridiculous, especially as you get older. Luckily, we wear glasses and we can read it, but it's such a pain in the butt in terms of reading that. But you're right, it's the music first, and that is the reason why we like either format. I tell you what I totally agree with all three of us, or them and myself, is that we like the physical format. We like having the music, owning it, not streaming it where you stream it today and 3 months from now, that piece of music is gone from your streaming service. Now, maybe that's okay with you because you just listen to something else and you'll always have a Billy Joel or Beatles record somewhere to listen to up there. But there's a lot of great music on compact disc and on vinyl that's not available on the like records that are not available on CDs that are not available on vinyl. not available streaming. And again, that depends on their licenses and things. And again, as those of you who watch me, I support artists, and artists get screwed on streaming for the most part. And I, will support the physical format, and I will support vinyl. I am buying very few CDs these days. If there's a certain maybe collection of a box of something or something I can't get on vinyl, I will pick that up. But I'm pretty much back all in on vinyl. It is an expense. I am careful in what I buy. And it is a debate, but it's a friendly debate, I think. And it's fun when these things come up. I think a lot of people on YouTube are in the vinyl community, in the music community, whether it's classical, jazz, or any genre. They have gone through this discussion, whether it's an inner discussion with themselves about do they want to get back into the vinyl if they're like at my age range and they want to get back. I know a lot of people my age who have gotten back into vinyl in the last decade. It isn't just like a last, since the pandemic type of thing. I think that's what Dave Hurwitz was alluding to, that this is a brand new thing. It's not. Maybe for classical musicians, as Michael said, because finally Deutsche Grammophon and several other labels are doing these new editions. And the one thing that I disagree with Dave and I agree with Michael is there are records today that sound so much better than the originals for a lot of reasons. I mean, as great as the original Blue Note records sound, and they sound fabulous, there was a compromise in those days in terms of cutting records for record players of the day. The Tone Poets, I would argue, sound better than the original Blue Note records. A lot of records are like that. Again, it's not an absolute. A lot of labels cut corners on vinyl, do these remixes, unnecessary remixes, do bad mastering, maybe bad pressings. And that does sour people on vinyl when a pressing is weaker. But there's a lot of great things coming out now. Going back to rock and roll, the infamous Robert Ludwig Led Zeppelin 2. That was cut hot and really didn't work on cheaper record players of the time, so it was recut. Now everyone clamors for that edition and pays upwards $500 to $800 on a perfect copy of that record. Crazy. Yeah, crazy, those kind of prices. And David is absolutely right, Mr. Hurwitz, on the price of CDs, how they're much more reasonable. But as he said, and we all agree on this, when CDs came out, they were like $18 to begin with. They were like 16 to $20 in some cases, which was, records were about $8 then, $7, $8 then around that time. So they were 2 to 2.5 times the price. Record companies gouged all of us on CDs and really pushed us into that format. And I was one, definitely I was one. Oh, I can't talk about CDs until I'm here. I was one who got sucked into the compact disc thing. I went through a 15-year period where I stored away most of my vinyl and didn't listen to it. But once I brought it out again after a 15-year hiatus of listening to the steely sounds of compact discs, the metallic sounds of compact discs, and I put a record on, I heard the difference. I A-beat and I heard the difference, and I heard. And as I improve my turntable and cartridge and system and amplification, I really heard the difference between vinyl and compact disc, and I do today. Again, yes, in my system here, I like what I hear, and it sounds good in here. This is a deader room than in my main room upstairs, but I enjoy listening to records when I want to really listen and feel the music. There's an emotional connection. And this might sound kumbaya, San Francisco, California, left-wing liberal commie shit. But when I listen to a record, to music on a vinyl record, on a well-pressed, good mastered vinyl record, whether it's an original or a new version, I feel it more. And it touches me more than a compact disc. Compact disc is a certain gloss to it. And again, there are exceptions, definitely. There's a certain thing in a CD that doesn't strike me inside. Now, that is something that you cannot quantify, qualify, explain to anyone else. You have to feel it. And maybe you'll never feel it. Maybe you'll never. It's like really falling in love instead of just dating someone casually. When you feel it, when you feel that music, you know. And I only get that from vinyl records. So that's it for today. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Dave Hurwitz. I don't know you, but I think this is kind of a fun little thing. Mine is not as mine is not as specific as Michael's wonderful take on this and response. And I did watch Dave Hurwitz's thing too. So I think it's great you do this every once in a while. But I don't know him. I don't really know much about him except for what Michael has introduced to us through his video. Thanks for watching. Mazzy loves you.